What's on P938/29, Part 1, Take 1. May God have mercy on Tony Wilson's soul.
Because my future ain't what it was. When I think I know what that I mean. You hear me, I'm a tick tock. You know the scene of the Boredom. Ba-dum.
Ba-dum Ba-dum lines from a song, a punk anthem called Boredom, first released in Manchester in February '77 on an independently produced EP called Spiral Scratch. That EP is now a collector's piece, a punk classic. It both influenced and represented the spirit of the new music which thrived in the last 2 years. The group in question, Buzzcocks, were formed and the songs written by, on the right, Howard Devoto. He changes his name each time he moves town, and on the left, Pete Shelley. Shelley was what his parents were going to call him if he was a girl. By the summer of '78, Shelley and Devoto had parted company. With their own bands and record contracts, they had each released albums to great critical acclaim. Albums which, though musically very different, define the present state of play. As well as being the story of how these guitars got to be in this condition, this is also the story of Pete Shelley and Howard Devoto, two young men who seized their desires and helped change the reality of modern music. Autumn 1975, Bolton Institute of Technology. Shelley and Devoto are students, and they're very bored.
I was incredibly sick of what I was hearing and what I was reading on record, on paper, in people's minds.
November '75, Devoto puts up a notice looking for musicians, an obscure notice which prophetically included the word punk. Shelley answered the notice.
Well, about a couple of weeks after we met with the view to forming a group, we started just writing songs together. And the songs were good and we enjoyed them. And we thought, we really must get a group together proper and go out and perform these songs, you know, so people can enjoy them as much as we do.
Feeling betrayed by contemporary music, the sounds inside their heads were revolutionary. Energy, aggression and simplicity. To many it seemed harsh and tuneless. It would later be called punk rock.
Everybody that was involved with that movement, and certainly myself, and I think probably Peter and the rest of Buzzcocks, was that you didn't think you were going to be around very long. You didn't think you were going to make another record. You didn't really know that you were going to play another concert. And therefore, in a way, you had to do it fast. You know? And you had to do it as directly as you could.
Well, in some ways it was in opposition, and we were glad about that because we didn't want to be the same as everybody else. But also it was different because we were different. And, it just seemed to arise from the things that we were doing. That we had this feeling between us that we wanted to do something which was entertaining and exciting and actually meant something.
I thought of it as an attack, but not in any straightforward, upfront, I'll show you my fists man sort of thing. It was just an attempt to step sideways and shadow box with a few phantoms or something.
The fight begins on July 20th, 1976 at Manchester's Lesser Free Trade Hall, Shelley and Devoto on stage for the first time. They have now added a Stretford schoolboy on drums, John Marr, and on bass, Steve Diggle, unemployed from Oldham. This is an 8mm film taken by a friend. No soundtrack exists.
Well, it was a bit of a rush job. We were told that unless we were on the stage within 5 minutes, we wouldn't be playing at all, then we could only play for half an hour. But, I mean, there was excitement because we were partially organising the gig as well. So there was a lot of hanging around and everything. In those days, it seemed exciting. It was amateurish. But it's still exciting. A lot of people enjoyed it.
When I came off the stage, I went and looked down the back staircase, and I'd cut my finger on one of Peter's guitar strings, and I had some blood on my finger, and I thought I felt So unbelievably blank.
Between July and December 1976, Buzzcocks played 10 gigs. They pile in a van and go down to the Screen on the Green in Islington in London. Although they set the pace from the start with their friends the Sex Pistols and the Clash, because Buzzcocks are from Manchester, their top-line status is a while in coming. It looked to have arrived, though, with the release of Spiral Scratch, made with money borrowed from friends, and in particular money borrowed from Shelley's dad. It has sold 15,000. It's worth $100 in New York, but time was up for the special relationship. Just 3 weeks after release, Devoto decides to leave the band. In a statement to the music press, he says, "I don't like most of this new music. I don't like music. I don't like movements."
Well, it was just another one in a series of perverse movements on my part, really. Like getting involved with the sort of music the Buzzcocks were doing was a reaction and maybe a slap in the face for everything else. So leaving it, I had this second slap in the face in the back of my mind. You know.
Did it cross your mind that when Howard left, that was the end?
It may have done, but it wasn't there for very long. It was the thing where if Howard leaving had made it the end, then it would have been just a waste of time as doing it, because there'd been nothing actually there. Because he left before we actually became really well known. And I thought, well, there's two things we can do. We can either get in another vocalist, or we can, or I can do the singing. So I thought, well, if we get another vocalist, and that means a front man, and it'll change the character of the whole group. So I thought, I'll do the singing. So I did.
For the Buzzcocks, it's back to the notice board, this time in Virgin Records shop in Manchester. Leading Northwest beat combo require bass player who is pretty or competent or pretty competent. This is Garth, who's fairly pretty. Diggle moves over to play the guitar, and Shelley takes over from Devoto as the band's front man.
Don't stop at me.